Go. There you go. Work, work, work. Let's go. Eyes up. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Welcome to Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. Eric Allen, Ethan Greenberg here in the BetMGM studio. We'll be joined by Olivia Landis and Brian Baldinger later in the show. The Jets are preparing for their second consecutive AFC East game, welcoming in the Buffalo Bills to MetLife Stadium for their second matchup and final matchup of the 2020 season.
Yeah, you never want to get swept by a division rival in any year. Of course, the Bills beat the New York Jets in Week 1 by a 27-17 count. And the Jets are getting some good news. There is one of their fine performers throughout the 2020 season, of course, Marcus May. Greens, that was one of the most remarkable plays I've seen in covering the National Football League in 21 seasons. I mean, that play, interception against the Miami Dolphins, I've watched it over and over again, and I don't know how it transpired. I don't know how that became reality because you could never duplicate that.
We're going to break it down later on in the show. EA, real quick, I was wondering if that interception reminded you at all of the San Diego Charger playoff matchup when Darrelle Revis picked up Phillip Rivers. Vincent Jackson in coverage kind of bobbled off his backside, and then he got it. That's what came to my mind, at least. But let's talk about today's headline, and let's not talk about 2009. Today's headline is that the Jets might have a new quarterback under center. There he is, Sam Darnold, back on the field in a limited capacity for the first time in a couple weeks.
Yeah, of course, he started the first 4 games of the season, including the opener at Buffalo. Joe Flacco took over the offensive controls the last 2 games. We have to preface this by saying, listen, he is practicing on a limited basis today. What Adam Gase said was, let's see how he feels physically after taking some of these team reps here this afternoon. So, number 14 could be back under center Sunday at MetLife Stadium.
And in that same breath, it very well could be Joe Flacco under center for his 3rd consecutive game. But if Sam Darnold is in fact able to go Sunday against the Bills, how different do you think this offense will look?
Well, it's tough to say because it's not only Sam Darnold who we're monitoring the health status of. It's a lot of these guys who have been banged up, but they're starting to increase their reps at practice, and we're going to talk about it here throughout practice today. Mekhi Becton, he's missed the last couple games, the big left tackle, but he's going to be taking team reps, and the Jets are going to have to see how he is. Denzel Mims, the rookie out of Baylor, is going to be taking team reps after taking scout team reps last week. Brashad Perriman got back in the lineup last week. But for the Jets, offensively, they got to convert on 3rd down. That was the big problem in Miami. When you go 2 of 17 on 3rd down, you're not going to win too much. But Darnold gives you that element of athleticism in the pocket that maybe Flacco doesn't, whereas Flacco, both of these guys can make any throw you need on the football field. We talked about it when Darnold went down. He can improvise, and he's made some incredible plays outside the pocket this year.
And if the Jets are able to get back a lot of the guys that you mentioned, like Denzel Mims for the first time this season. Last week, Mims predominantly only took scout team reps. Now he's going to take offensive team reps. And then same thing with Mekhi Becton. If he's in the lineup, that's a difference maker right there. We've talked about him throughout the course of the season. But no matter who starts under center, the Jets are going to face an interesting Bills defense, right? Because you think about where they ranked last year in 2019, top 3 defense in the NFL, held teams to 16.2 points per game. And then you look at their stats this season, I mean, they're bottom 3rd of the NFL, EA. So what's happened here with the Bills defense?
Well, the personnel has changed. There's no doubt about that, especially up front along that defensive line. Against the Kansas City Chiefs just a couple days ago on Monday Night Football, they got gashed on the ground. The Chiefs had more than 250 yards rushing. I think injuries have hurt them. Tremaine Edmonds early in the year was banged up. Matt Milano, he might not be in the lineup again. That's a fine inside linebacker pair. You've had cornerback issues where Trey White missed some time, and you were dependent on, Josh Norman come in. He's your number 1 guy all of a sudden. So they have had issues in the secondary. They haven't been able to get to the quarterback. The pass rush, Jerry Hughes is winning a lot, but a lot of those other guys up front aren't winning. So different personnel along that defensive line. Injuries have hurt, and they just haven't found themselves so far this season.
And Josh Norman did not see the Jets week 1. He didn't play yet. Brian Winters is now starting on the other side of the ball. Brian Winters is their starting right guard, the Bills starting right guard. So he's going to face the Jets, his former team and his only other NFL team, for the first time in his career this Sunday at MetLife Stadium. But these two teams know each other very well. They've met in week 1. Of course, the Jets lost that game 27-17. Is there anything on either side of the ball that you can take away from that matchup?
So much has changed. The one thing that you can take away is you see Marcus May forcing an Allen turnover right there, and Bless Austin following that up with another takeaway for the New York Jets is that they have to start quicker. Jamison Crowder got him back into this ball game with a 69-yard scoring grab, and he did most of it after the catch, breaking a Tremaine Edmonds tackle. But they fell behind in that game 21-0, and frankly, it could have been worse at halftime. They could have been a 30-point game at halftime. The Jets have to find a way where they can start quicker. Last week against Miami, you go back to that second play of the game, Brashad Perryman had a step. Unfortunately, he misjudged the ball from Joe Flacco, and it kind of went downhill from there. But the Jets have to figure out a way defensively to get off the field early or create those takeaways early, and then offensively, you got to move the football.
You mentioned the Bills against the Chiefs. Well, the Bills have dropped 2 in a row. One to the Chiefs the week before that to the Tennessee Titans. They were 4-0. They're now 4-2. And for more of the offensive struggles that the Bills have endured over the past couple games, let's hear from Brian Baldinger for another Baldy's Breakdown presented by Sharp.
Hey, thanks, Ethan. When I look at the Bills' offense right now, they're sputtering for a couple reasons. One, they're starting running back Singletary. He's not getting explosive runs. There's some timing issues with the receivers, and the quarterback just hasn't been like he was the first 4 weeks of the season in these last 2 losses. Let's go in the film room. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
The Bills are blocking well up front. I don't think the backs are running good. Tyler Kroft comes in here at the end of the line of scrimmage. It's 6-on-6 blocking. They blocked as well. Devin Singletary here follows the guard like he should. Now, he's got a 2-way go. He takes it inside for a 4-yard gain. Missing this year are the explosive runs. He doesn't have any, none over 20 yards all year. Take a look at this play here. This is week 5 against Tennessee. Watch Andre Roberts at the bottom. He goes outside of Malcolm Butler. He has to go inside Malcolm Butler because they're going to run this crossing route underneath here. And at the 30-yard line, there should be a high-low for Josh Allen to throw this ball. Instead, it's late, it's behind Andre Roberts, and it gets picked. But it's on the receiver. It's on the receiver, Roberts, not to go outside. He's got to go inside. Maybe it was the rain against the Chiefs, but Josh Allen had been playing better than this. He's got Stephon Diggs on a deep over route right here, wide open. I mean, that's a touchdown ball right there, and he misses him. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it's just a little bit of a miscommunication, but he hasn't been sharp. Like this 3rd and 6 here. I mean, 3rd and 6, the ball's going to Cole Beasley. A little stutter and go right here. There's Cole Beasley right there. Got plenty of protection, got an angle, and can't get the ball to Cole Beasley. Bills' offense is not clicking right now the way it was when they were 4-0.
Great stuff from Brian Baldinger. And the Jets, the one thing, or one of the few things that's been consistent for this team has been their ability to take the ball away. And for more on that, let's head to Olivia Landis for our Sideline Report. Liv, what can you tell us about the consistency this Jets defense has had at snatching the ball away?
Ethan, over the course of the past 3 contests, the Jets have totaled 6 interceptions. You heard that right, 6 interceptions in just 3 contests, which makes their total 7 interceptions on the season, which currently is tied for 3rd most in the NFL. Defensive coordinator Greg Williams has always stressed takeaways. It's a very key role in this defensive scheme every single year. He currently has 4 different players on that defense that have had interceptions this season. Cornerback Pierre Desir leads the entire group with 3 interceptions of his own. Cornerback Brian Poole has tallied 2, and safety Marcus May and linebacker Avery Williamson have both had 1 each on the season. Now, diving a little bit deeper into these numbers, not only have they had 7 interceptions, but they've also had 2 fumble recoveries, making their total of takeaways 9 on the season. What does that mean on the other side of the ball, though? The offense has had 6 giveaways so far this season, so the net difference between the 9 takeaways and the 6 giveaways is 3, which currently ranks 8th in the NFL this season. One of the most impressive interceptions so far this season came actually last week against the Miami Dolphins. Safety Marcus May came up with an acrobatic interception, to say the very least. Head coach Adam Gase was asked about it earlier today when the media was speaking to him, and quite honestly, he said, I didn't necessarily expect him to come up with the ball. You saw cornerback Bless Austin give him a little bit of help there, but he did come up with the ball. He said he was very impressed. Overall, Greg Williams has stressed takeaways, and so far this season, it's exactly what his defense is doing.
Thank you very much. As Liv mentioned, the Jets have 2 fumble recoveries, both of which came in week 1 against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. But really, that Bills passing attack, it hit its stride right after it faced the Jets with Stephon Diggs on one end, John Brown on the other. And, of course, you have to recall that Cole Beasley is a viable option in the slot.
Yeah, Josh Brown is a guy we got to monitor throughout the week because he's been banged up, and I think the passing attack in Buffalo has kind of slowed down while Brown has not been a full go per se. Stephon Diggs is as good as any receiver in the National Football League, and the Bills early on in the season, they had those explosive plays of 20-plus yards down the field. Well, that hasn't happened lately in those losses to the Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs, and they showed they weren't ready for prime time just yet. But this is a scary offense because Josh Allen can tuck it. And what we saw in week 1 was Brian Daboll devised the game plan for Allen to run it. A lot of RPOs, and he had success on the ground. But then he started moving and staying back in that pocket and just lighting people up through the air. But lately, as Baldy articulated there, this offense has not been the same the last 2 weeks.
Josh Allen, 16 touchdowns on the year. That's 2nd in the NFL. He ranks 4th in passing yards, only has 4 interceptions this season. But let's take a look at the injury report presented by Atlantic Health. Of course, we talked about Sam Darnold being limited in practice. Good news here, Mekhi Becton taking team reps for the first time in a couple weeks. And then Alex Lewis will not practice. He's more of a week-to-week guy, most likely not going to play Sunday against the Bills.
Yeah, so with him being week to week, who's going to be in the starting lineup? Does that mean that's Josh Andrews?
You would assume Josh Andrews played 21 snaps in Lewis's place last week against the Dolphins. But I wonder, EA, if similar to what we saw with the gymnastics up front with George Fant going to the left side when Mekhi Becton was down, will Greg Van Roten move to the left side where he played last year in Carolina?
You certainly could do that. The guy to monitor, again, is going to be the big left tackle because Becton, yes, he's the left tackle, so he'll probably be seeing a lot of Jerry Hughes on Sunday for his 2nd time in his professional career. But where I really think he could help the Jets is moving the football on the ground because we talked about the Bills having so much difficulty stopping the run of late, most notably what the Chiefs did. They didn't want the ball to go over their heads. But if the Jets are indeed a healthier unit on Sunday with Sam Darnold under center, he would have his 3 dudes, your anticipated guys that you wanted in the starting lineup from the get in maybe Denzel Mims, Rashad Perryman, and Jamison Crowder, and then the big left tackle there as well. So this would be the first time you'd actually see these guys all together in 2020. That's the hope. We got a long way to go. We got a long practice week ahead before we get there.
Wouldn't that be something if the Jets were able to have Rashad Perriman, Denzel Mims, and Jamison Crowder on the field, and Mekhi Becton on the field for the first time all together in 2020? Denzel Mims is one of a handful of players who's in that designated to return window. The Jets actually designated 5th-round cornerback Bryce Hall to return. Remember, he came in with that ankle injury. But somebody that we haven't spoken at all about, that's defensive lineman, the 3rd-round pick for the Jets, Jabari Zuniga, number 92 right there. He's in that designated to return window. he was activated or he was designated 2 weeks ago today, EA, which means he could either get called up Sunday or the Jets could wait one more week to this day, next Wednesday, to finally activate him to the active roster.
I don't know what we put, what he's listed on the roster as, if it's a defensive end or defensive lineman, a DE or DL. But I think like when we were studying the draft, a lot of people put him at the edge. He's not going to be an edge for the New York Jets. He's going to be more of an interior player where he's not going to be. My point is, I doubt you're going to see too many times when he ultimately does get to the field where he's standing up as an outside linebacker, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. I think he's listed as defensive lineman.
Yep.
He's 6'3", 264. At Florida, he had 118 tackles, but really what stands out is 34.5 tackles for loss, 18.5 sacks in 42 games. And in the pre-draft process, if you recall what Joe Douglas said, what Rex Hogan said, is that he was explosive even with that high ankle sprain he was dealing with. And he ran a 4.64 40 at 264 pounds. This is a big guy that can move, and they really liked the violence he played with in the trenches.
And he's been, frankly, overlooked and maybe forgotten by the outside world, because I think there's a lot of anticipation out there for when Denzel Mims is going to make his debut on the offensive side of the ball. But this was an early draft pick himself, and the Jets like his explosiveness, and he could be a disruptor up there along a defensive line that has a changed look now without a big guy in the middle.
I'm glad you mentioned that. The Jets, of course, no longer with Steve McClendon, who was traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right after Sunday's game. And there are the parameters of the trade. The Jets receive a 2022 sixth-round pick. They deal Steve McClendon and a seventh-round pick to the Buccaneers, where he reunites with defensive coordinator Todd Bowles. But how about this Jets defensive line now, where they are? There's no Steve McClendon, but they almost had a surplus of interior guys with Quinnen Williams, Lorenzo Fatukasi. Nathan Shepard has been inactive the past couple games, but he played 8 games for the Jets last season. And then you got guys emerging like John Franklin Myers, you see right there, number 91, and even somebody on the outside like undrafted rookie Bryce Huff.
Well, Bryce Huff made or racked up his first professional career sack last week against the Miami Dolphins, getting valuable rubs. John Franklin Myers, a former early pick of the LA Rams, his flash. Quinnen Williams, I think, has been solid against the run. We saw him get to the quarterback a couple times against the 49ers, of course. And you mentioned Lorenzo Fatukasi and Shepard now. Those are the guys who are probably going to be like, I learned a lot from McClendon. Now what can I do with additional reps?
This season, Pepsi is going live to upgrade your football watching experience. Go to madefornyfootball.com for rules and to learn more. Pepsi is the official soft drink of the New York Jets. Now it's time for Keys to the Game, presented by SiriusXM with Eric Coleman. EC wears many hats and is a host on SiriusXM NFL Radio, as well as a Jets 360 contributor.
XM NFL Radio, and I'm here with my keys to the game for the Week 7 matchup between the Buffalo Bills and our New York Jets. Now, in order for the Jets to have success in Week 7, they're going to have to get off to a fast start. In their first appearance, Buffalo got off to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter, and the Jets were never able to regroup and get back into their game plan. So a fast start is very important for the Jets' success. Offensively, establishing the run game is going to be very important. Kansas City Chiefs had a lot of success running the football against this Buffalo Bills defense. If the Jets can establish the run, that'll make things easier for the quarterbacks and taking shots down the field. So establishing the run game is going to be important. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, don't allow any big plays. Communication on the back end, not allowing big plays, keeping the ball in front, making those short tackles are going to give you an opportunity to create some turnovers against Josh Allen. He's having a good year, but he is prone to throw a couple interceptions. The Jets defensive backs have to be prepared to take advantage of those opportunities, and the Jets will have a successful week. Those are my keys to the game. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Eric. It's time for our Stats Amazing segment. This stat comes courtesy of Randy Lang. Paul Crane is the only Jets linebacker to record 3 takeaways in one game in franchise history. He had 2 picks and a fumble recovery in the 1969 season opener against the Buffalo Bills in a 33-19 victory. Now let's head to our NFL Network's analytics expert, Cynthia Freeland, for more of a look at Sunday's matchup.
Last week in Miami, we saw Marcus May put on a show. The pass that he intercepted had about a 25% expected completion probability per Next Gen Stats. Now, those stats don't factor in who's passing, catching, or defending that pass. And Marcus May coming down with it in the way that he did shows exactly how above average he is. Now, the other number that pops, 89, as in Brashad Perryman played 89% of the offensive snaps. Getting healthier, especially at the wide receiver position, is going to be a key factor against this Bills defense that has allowed the third highest third down conversion rate in the league. The third number I want to point out is 34. Ty Johnson in his Jets debut had the longest rush for the team of the day at 34 yards. Between him and LaMichael Pirine, the Jets are really getting a good look at the running back position going forward. This is also going to be key against the Bills, as they've given up the 8th most rushing yards per game at 131.3. For more stats and context just like that, please join me and Dan Grassa this weekend on the Numbers Game. Back to you, Ethan and EA.
Thanks, Cynthia. EA, how about Paul Crane? Randy bringing out the Paul Crane reference.
You know, I had to go look this up, but Crane played 88 games for the Jets from 1966 to 1972, and he had 5 interceptions. So 2 of those came in that one game against the Bills, and he had a fumble recovery too, and he sealed the win by returning an interception 23 yards.
Wow, look
How
at
about that?
Little teamwork here on practice today. Right there, you're looking at the receivers, and Denzel Mims there, number 11, and then you see 17 right next to him, and Vincent Smith and Jeff Smith in 16. I know we've talked about this a while now, but at full strength, the Jets are going to be a very fast unit. Maybe not as much with Crowder, but you don't need speed with Crowder. You need agility there.
He still is explosive, and there's the Jets GM, Joe Douglas, watching his quarterback, Sam Darnold and Jameson Crowder, and those two have such a great chemistry. Now it's going to be about, if Darnold is able to go Sunday, can he create that chemistry with Brashad Perryman. Perryman back in the lineup last week with Joe Flacco, 4 catches for 62 yards. Most of those came on some crossers late in the game. But we mentioned that there were a couple times in that ball game where he did have a step. And throughout his career, Darnold's been accurate with the long ball. And the other guy that we'll continue to talk about this week, of course, is Denzel Mims, who did some fine work on the scout team last week. But what is he going to do with the team reps this week? Because then you might actually see some formations if you're an 11 personnel with the 3 receivers being Brashad Perryman, Denzel Mims on the outside, Jameson Crowder on the inside. And then let's take a look, and we'll be able to fairly evaluate this Jets offense.
Very fair. Are you the ultimate Jets fan? Tell us why you or someone you know deserves to be inducted into the Fan Hall of Fame class of 2020. Submit your nomination by November 7th at nyjets.com/Fan Hall of Fame. All right, now it's time to wrap up practice today, presented by SiriusXM with the Roundtable. So let's bring back Olivia Landis. We've talked ad nauseum about this Marcus May interception. Liv mentioned it. EA mentioned it. Cynthia Freeland mentioned it. So now we're going to break it down. I'm going to start with you, Liv. What is your favorite freeze frame of the Marcus May interception? All right, well, EA, we'll start with you. What's your favorite freeze frame?
You had to say that one quick, right?
I did.
Favorite freeze frame.
Favorite freeze frame.
If we're right in the back, I talked to Bobby about this. It's when Bless Austin was coming over, and just for a second, you didn't know. There it is right there. If you're Bless Austin, what are you thinking? Should I help Marcus May right here, or can I rip this out of his hands and I take
That's
this
my
ball?
pick. That would have been Bless's first career pick.
Listen, the most remarkable part of this picture is Marcus May has it with his right hand, okay? His right hand, the backside of his right hand. There you go. And then there's Bless Austin with his right hand. Do you know that Marcus May eventually corralled this ball with his left hand, not his right hand?
That's the basketball player in Marcus May doing a little behind-the-back action. My favorite freeze frame actually comes just a little bit after this.
Okay.
Because Bless Austin, you see, he has the freeze frame there.
Yep.
And then if you fast forward a little bit, Marcus does the play, he puts it behind his back, and right there, Bless says, whoa! Well, it wasn't me, pal. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, buddy. It wasn't me. And that would have been Bless's first career interception. But like you said earlier, what do you do if you're Marcus? You're like, do you go in for it because you see it? I feel like if I was Bless, I'd just push it against his back. Granted, I don't think I would think that in the moment, but I think that would be the proper moment.
Listen, on a serious note, I know the Jets have not had a lot of positives while starting 0-6 for the first time since 1996. But if you get efforts like that out of players, this is something you're hoping the coaching staff shows to everybody on that roster. Because when you get individual efforts like that on plays, you have an opportunity to win some ball games and do some good things. There are 10 games remaining yet.
Okay, so we had some technical difficulties. Now let's bring back Liv Landis. Okay, Liv, we talked about our favorite freeze frames, and I'm glad I got a second opportunity to say that because that was a tongue twister for me.
Did she just move? Speaking of freeze frames.
Yeah, she moved. That's okay. So, Liv, what is your favorite freeze frame from the Marcus May interception?
Yeah, sorry guys for the small technical difficulties there. Couldn't hear you for a quick second in my IFB. However, we're back. I did move. That was a good notice on EA's part. My freeze frame, if you guys wanted to go ahead and throw it up there, it's right when Marcus May is about, it like bounces off his chest and he's about to catch it again. His leg is all up in the air. It looks like he's about to do a cartwheel. We keep using the word acrobatic when it comes to this interception. I think this perfectly explains that all-in-one freeze frame because it looks like, again, he's about to do some type of backflip or cartwheel.
Liv, were you able to hear the freeze frames EA and I chose? Because I want to, this
I didn't.
Okay, so EA chose when Bless is going in to steal the pick, and then I chose when Bless puts his hands up like, no, I'm sorry, like it wasn't me.
Oh, actually, I know exactly which frame you're talking about, the one where he's like this.
Yeah, the one where he puts his hands up.
I like that one.
The one EA was talking about was just before that, where Bless Austin has this like, uh-oh moment of do I do it or do I not?
Well, it's almost like I'm going to push it into you, or I don't know if he can get it. So if I push it to him, the ball might go to the ground. So maybe I should pick it up and take it myself.
Yeah, there is a lot that happened there. Everyone, including Marcus, specifically Marcus, very happy it ended up the way it did.
He played down this interception, by the way, and that just speaks
he
to who he is. He's had a wonderful season for the Jets so far. He's been one of the bright spots.
He has very much so. That was his first pick of the season. He has a fumble recovery as well, or a forced fumble, should I say. That's all we have here on Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. We'll see you Sunday, Jets-Bills at MetLife Stadium.